Hey everybody, this is Everyday Commentary, and this is a video overview of this knife. And this knife is the CRKT Homefront EDC edition. So the original Homefront, I think it either had aluminum or G10 handles. They now make this version, which is the EDC version. It runs FRN handles. They make a similar hunting version, and then they also make a Tanto blade version. The Homefront is the first knife in the world to feature what CRKT is calling field strip technology. And so I'm going to do a little Nick Shabazz. I'm going to disassemble this knife in front of you. But unlike vast majority of knives out there, the Homefront, thanks to the field strip technology, is capable of being disassembled without tools. I'm downstairs in my workshop where I record most of these videos, and I'm sitting amongst a bunch of tools that are all toolless change devices. Most drills now don't use a traditional keyed Jacobs chuck. They use a chuck that you can tighten with your hand. All of the Festool tools that I have in my workshop can be adjusted by hand. And the end result is that you just get a better, more functional tool. And so let me show you how this works. So first of all, you should turn the knife so that the blade is down. And then you should hold the knife so that you can undo that. So push the lever up, and then you're going to go to the back of the knife, and still putting pressure on the whole assembly, you're going to undo this wheel in the back. And when you hear a click, you're going to know that you're done. So it's not quite there yet. And there you go. There's a click. All right, so now you can take off the scale and you can take out the blade. Although, really cool fun fact, fit and finish here is pretty darn good, because even with the blade off, the detent keeps the knife, or even with the handle scale off, the detent keeps the blade in place. So there's the handle, there's the lock bar side, and as you can see, there's the detent. There's the little screw wheel that lets you disassemble things. And then if you notice right here, you can see that the head on this pin that acts as the pivot is actually a hex head. And so if you do if you look inside, let's see if I can get it to show up on camera. Right there, there's a hex head inside the pivot hole. And so when you move that lever, what you're doing is you're putting the pivot screw hex head at a position that no longer matches up with the hex hole in here, and that's what allows you to assemble and disassemble the knife without tools. This does not seem to have any sort of reinforcement to it. This does have reinforcement to it. You can see right there's a little plate. I believe that's a little piece of metal that's sort of mounted inside there. The knife blade is 3.5 inches. And as you can see, there's a tiny bit of recurve. So let's see if I can show it to you. Just a tiny bit. I mean, just like a smidge, like right there. That's the recurve. You're not getting a whole lot. It's 3.5 inches. It has this very nice sort of bulbous drop point shape. And it's a liner lock. It's all good. So you can see the whole thing. Now let's put this back together. So you're going to put it back together the opposite way that you just assembled it. So you should have the knife in the closed position. You line up the first piece. Let me make sure we're still in the up position. Yep. So the first thing you're going to do, try not to cut yourself, is you're going to line up the pivot screw and the blade stop. And then you're going to put the handle scale on the whole assembly, like so. And then you're going to start tightening that wheel down in the back. And as you do that, you're going to run into a point where you can no longer tighten it. And there we are. And drop the pivot. And now the blade works again. The flipping action is actually quite good. And all the fit and finish on this knife is really superb, and I think that's probably because it has to be be able to disassemble and reassemble. The pocket clip is fantastic. It's an over-the-top deep carry pocket clip. It fits into a slot or a pocket in the actual handle scale itself, so it only takes one screw to do that. The pivot is this ring, and the whole idea is that this is sort of mirrors or mimics a bayonet. I'm not sure if I'm all thrilled about the bayonet thing. The star here is obviously a callback to some military insignias. But the overall impression that you get is that this is a pretty well-made knife. I don't know how well the field strip technology works. So what I'm going to do as an addendum to this video is I'm going to take this knife and put it in my kid's sandbox. And then cover it in sand, and then take it out, clean it out, and see if I can get it to work just as well as it does here. I mean, it works beautifully now. It flips virtually effortlessly. It doesn't take any effort to pop that open or to keep it closed. All right, and it stays closed nicely, so the detent works. Like I showed you, the detent was strong enough to keep the knife in the blade or in the handle, even when the opposite handle scale was removed. So that's the CRKT Homefront. It runs 1.4116 stainless steel. It's not the best steel in the world. It's the same steel that you get on a Swiss Army knife. It is hardened a little harder than a Swiss Army knife, so it should hold it a little bit better of an edge. But this is by far, cutting edge steel. It's not the best steel in the world. It's also not the worst steel in the world. It's finished nicely. It has a good clean stone wash. The grind is a little bit muted. It's not something that's like super crisp. One thing that I would note is that they have this weird spot right here where it's not really a sharpening choil, not really a finger choil. It's just a spot of unsharpened steel, and it's sort of a dead zone. What I would prefer them to have done is to sort of take this portion here and just bring it straight up to the plunge line so that it's out of the way. That means that you probably couldn't do this sort of like faux choking up. It's not really a choil. The other thing they could have done is they could have just done a full choil here. I mean, there's plenty of blade steel. I'm not one that thinks you need a giant knife or giant blade, giant edge. So if you took out that much with a sharpening choil, I think that would make this knife better. I don't think it would make it. I don't know. I mean, it's something you'd have to see done, but it's certainly something that could have been done, and it's better than just leaving, a 1/4 of an inch unsharpened. But I do have to say that the fit and finish on this is really great. I mean, the blade centering is dead on. If it's not dead on in the camera, it's because of me. So when you get a chance, take a look at the Homefront. The EDC version is probably the version I go for because it's the lightest and the cheapest, and I don't think you should pay for weight or materials unless they're doing something really special, and on the other version, they're not. So look at this version, and a review will be coming soon, and that's it.